Fortnite has been around for over 6 years, and there have literally been thousands of different items and features that have come and gone in the game, and today we'll be going over 15 of the most useless ones, so let's get right into it. Cash was something that was in the game for 2 weeks in 2019 and it was literally useless. It was introduced for the Borderlands collab and you could get it either through opening Borderlands chests or eliminating opponents at Pandora, which was this whole desert region on the map as it obviously signified Borderlands. And the whole point of Cash was for a challenge in the Welcome to Pandora challenges, and the challenge was to pick up 10 pieces of cash. Other than that, there is no actual use for it gameplay wise and it was very largely useless. Banners are pretty useless for multiple different reasons. First of all, there really are like way too many banners for them to have any sort of significance, and honestly, nobody even really pays attention to them. You don't really ever see your banner inside the game, unlike other things like sprays and emotes, and I mean, it literally just has no purpose whatsoever. Booted cars came into the game at the same time as the normal cars, and honestly, there is no reason for them to exist. The boot serves no function other than signifying that a car is undrivable, and this doesn't even make sense because there are plenty of other undrivable cars that could be put in the place of a booted car. And if there is a boot, you would expect that there will be some way to remove it, but that obviously just isn't the case, and that is why there's no reason for it to be a thing inside the game. The victory crowns are actually really unique since they are like a cosmetic that you can pick up and see in your inventory, but they obviously don't take up space on your hotbar. As you all know, the purpose of the victory crowns is really to just showcase your status, and every win you get with the crown is called a crown win, and these are like the ultimate status symbols in the game. However, they're useless because they could honestly be used for so much more. For example, the devs could make it so that you are able to purchase certain skins or get certain rewards for a number of victory crowns every season. So I honestly just think that this is useless because it could really be used for so much more than just a cosmetic. The gas cans were useless just because nobody would really use them unless it was for some obscure reason. These things took up space in your hotbar and the single purpose was to fill up your car, but honestly it just wasn't worth it. Most people would never really use up all the gas in their car, and even if they did, then it was really easy to just find another one quickly or just find a gas station. Plus the cans also were kind of slow, so you couldn't really use them in a pinch or anything. And the only other thing about them was that they would blow up if you shot them, which could give them a little bit of use, but honestly, you would never really be in a position where that would be the best option, and there are a million better things to put in your hotbar over the gas cans. The only time people would actually carry gas cans was if they were planning to stay in a car for like a whole game or something. The repair torch is very similar to the gas cans in that it takes up space in your hotbar and you never really need to use it. I mean, the only time you would have it is if you were planning on camping in a car and would just need to repair it every time someone shot at you. But otherwise, there really was no use in carrying a repair torch around. Plus, it was even more useless back when we had the chrome vehicles, since those healed themselves and literally made it so the torch had no purpose. For this, I've decided to do a 2-in-1 with the small fry and bandages. Now, these two obviously have one clear function, which is for healing, and both of them heal you up to 75 health max. However, when it comes to bandages, those are things you normally only see in the early game when you're just dropping in, and there really is never any point in picking them up as you can get a medkit or chug splashes or something else pretty easily that is more effective. I mean, in the early game, you are more looking for shield than health, and honestly I don't even remember the last time I would have ever picked up bandages just because you rarely ever need to use them. And as for the small fry, these are even more useless as they're hard to get than the bandages, and if you're fishing you're most likely just going to wait for some floppers instead of the small fry unless you're like really down bad or something. So that's really why I think bandages and small fry are both pretty useless. Now, I know this sounds really weird, but let me explain. The reason I put rocket ammo on here is specifically for the seasons in which there isn't actually anything in the game that takes rocket ammo. For example, you had Chapter 3 Season 4 in which there were no explosives in the game apart from the standard grenades as well as a goo gun thing, which didn't actually use any standard ammo and just came with its own ammo, which was unique. So in seasons like that, the rocket ammo would literally serve absolutely no purpose. The rusty cannons are something that I think everyone can agree on is pretty useless. I mean, theoretically you can hit people with it and deal damage, but in reality it is basically your ranged pickaxe because it does the same damage and you literally have to pick it up after throwing it, which makes it very ineffective. Plus, there's no situation in where you would want to be using a rusty can since your pickaxe would probably be just way more effective. And I guess as a little bonus, you also have the coal, which is basically just the same thing. The bottle rockets were definitely more of a joke than an actual weapon, I assume, since I mean they were just absolutely useless, and I think they were just more for messing around with rather than actually using. Their range, damage, and accuracy were all horrible, and they were really seen as like the most useless actual weapon in the game, and this is what will cause them to get removed from the game a month after being introduced. Crash pads, and I guess most of the crash pad juniors, were completely useless for two reasons. First of all, these were like just more ineffective impulse grenades since they were so loud and gave enemies plenty of time to react, and they could even shoot and deflate the pads before you got to jump on them, and in my experience you were slower with the jump pads, which made you an easier target. Plus, I swear it was like a 50-50 chance that the pads would actually deploy the way you wanted them to instead of just ending up in some weird position, which made them unreliable to use and is why nobody would really use them, which made them useless. Fireflies are something that were useful and used a lot when they had first came out, but I mean over time people just started using them less and less, especially because they didn't actually work in arena, and eventually fireflies just became something you would see but just never pick up. I mean they definitely were useful, but it was in just more niche situations and not really anything that was regularly being used or carried around. The big bush bomb is also something that is a little interesting since I mean no one really uses it. Sure, it does have a purpose in that it's meant for being sneaky, but honestly with the big bushes, I feel like a lot of people have a general idea of whether a big bush belongs somewhere or not, so if you use one of these then it can be a little obvious that someone is in there, which basically makes you stand out even more. Plus, it's also not something that is beneficial to wasting a hotbar space for. And if you compare it to the normal bush that you could wear, then that is actually more useful as it soaks up one bullet and could be more sneaky than a massive bush. Plus, that was just a lot more fun. It didn't take up space in your hotbar unless you were carrying multiple of them. Finally, we have the frogs, and there are two things that make them useless. First of all, they only drop one piece of meat and are not reliable at all since it's kind of hard to find them, and you're better off just going fishing for some heals or just looking for some other random animal or some other meds on the ground. But the second thing is frog taming, which literally makes no sense. The frog would just follow behind you and doesn't help you out in any way and really just kind of hops around doing nothing. You can't even ride them or anything, and at that point it's better to just kill them for the meat. But anyways, that's it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one.